You keep saying you want love, but what you really crave is applause. You open your phone not to connect, but to be seen. Every message, every like, every heart reacts like a small applause to your existence. You don't wait for love, you'll wait for a notification. And when it doesn't come, your heart races. Not because of heartbreak, but withdrawal. You've replaced intimacy with visibility. Love requires you to show up raw, messy, real. But you've spent years perfecting the version of you that others will admire, not the one they can hold. That's the tragedy. You say you're alone because love is hard to find. But in truth, you reject it the moment it asks for authenticity over performance. You don't want to be held, you want to be celebrated. Not for who you are, but for how well you wear the mask. You're not lonely, you're just not being watched. You scroll endlessly, not for information, not for connection, but for affirmation. For that one post, one story, one comment that makes you feel like you matter. The moment no one's reacting, no one's noticing, you don't feel abandoned, you feel erased. Love would require you to sit still, to be okay in the silence between hearts. But silence terrifies you, because in silence, you hear the one voice you've spent your life drowning out your own. You think you're craving a soulmate, but what you truly fear is being unseen. So you chase noise, attention, flings, followers, not intimacy. Because noise distracts you from the void inside that even love cannot fill unless you face it. You're not in love. You're addicted to being admired. You mistake the rush of being desired for the depth of being loved. But admiration is fleeting. It's fickle. One moment you're praised, the next, forgotten. Love isn't about the heists, it's about who stays when the applause fades. But you don't wait that long. The moment it gets quiet, you run. You open new chats, flirt with strangers, post something provocative just to feel that brief surge of worth again. Because deep down, you're terrified that without validation, you are nothing. You don't want someone to love you. You want someone to rescue you from your own silence. Love is boring to someone raised on validation highs. You say you want real love, but when someone offers you stability, kindness, presence, you label it as not exciting. What you really mean is, they don't give you the dopamine rush you've been conditioned to crave. You want butterflies, anxiety, obsession, because that's what validation addiction feels like. It mimics passion, but real love. It's calm, it holds space. It doesn't chase, and calm terrifies you. Because without drama, you feel empty. You confuse emotional chaos with meaning. So you sabotage love that asks you to rest, and chase validation that keeps you running. You say you want love, but you flee the moment it asks for your soul, not your performance. True love asks for vulnerability. Not the curated kind, not the filtered tears of vague captions, but the type that says, here I am, broken and bare. Will you still choose me? But you can't risk that. You've built an identity on applause, and vulnerability might break the illusion. So instead, you give pieces half-truths, aesthetic sadness, romantic gestures designed to be seen. Because it's not love you want, it's a witness, someone to confirm that you're still worth watching, still worth chasing. But love doesn't chase illusions. It seeks the raw, the real, and that's why you keep ending up with nothing after everything. You never learned to receive love quietly because silence was always the sound of rejection in the stillness of a quiet room, when no one is calling your name, when your phone is silent, and your reflection the only witness. You feel a kind of panic that no one else sees, because you were raised not with love that stayed, but with love that performed. Applause was love, achievement was love, being impressive was love. So now, love that doesn't cheer feels like abandonment. You can't sit with a person who simply holds your hand. You need them to tell you how wonderful you are, how lucky they feel to have you, again and again. Because you're not waiting for connection, you're waiting for reassurance. You don't listen to I love you, you listen for you're still enough, right? But love is not repetition. Love is presence, and presence is quiet, subtle, a whisper in the noise. You mistake that whisper for absence, so you leave again, looking for someone louder, someone who will echo the hollow in you. You confuse being chosen with being loved. You chase attention like it's air. The moment someone looks your way, smiles at your post, sends a flirtatious text, your heart leaps. Not because it's love, but because it confirms you're still desirable, still wanted, still worth something. But let's be honest, what you're really chasing isn't love. It's the feeling of being picked. Because once upon a time, you weren't. Someone else was preferred. You were the afterthought, the second option, the shadow standing just outside the light. And now, you've built a life trying to rewrite that moment. Every glance, every flirtation, every match, every I want you is a small revenge against the rejection that still lives inside you. But love isn't a competition, and yet you treat it like one. You don't ask, does this person see my soul? You'll ask, did I win over someone else? Did I beat their ex? Did I earn their praise today? You're still that child on the playground, waiting to be picked for the team, not because you love the game, but because being left out still burns. And so long as you're chasing validation through being chosen, You'll never know the peace of being loved just for existing. You don't want to be seen, you want to be admired. There's a difference. You say you want intimacy, vulnerability, that kind of raw, soul deep connection. They're right about in poetry. But when someone gets too close, you flinch. Not because you fear rejection, but because you fear exposure. To be truly seen is to be known in your moments of silence, in your insecurity, in your contradiction. But you spend years perfecting the mirror. You show the world a polished reflection of who you wish you were. Not honest, not messy, not human, just impressive. You post pictures not to share your life, but to provoke admiration. You tell stories not to connect, but to be applauded. You crave that intoxicating rush of someone saying, "You're amazing." But that's not love. That's performance. And the terrifying truth is, you don't believe anyone would stay if they saw the unedited version of you. So you hide it, even from yourself. But love doesn't grow in perfection. It blooms in the dirt, in your chaos, your awkwardness, your fears whispered in the dark. Until you can sit in the quiet with someone and show them the parts you were told to keep hidden. You will always confuse being admired with being loved. You mistake validation for connection because you've never known love without performance since you were a child. Love always came with a condition. Be good, be quiet, be useful, be impressive. If you met those standards, they smiled, hugged you, said, "I'm proud of you." But when you didn't, you felt their silence like a punishment. And so, you learned to perform to earn approval, like a salary, something you had to work for every day. That same script follows you into adulthood now. You enter relationships like stages. You curate your words, your outfits, your interests. You say what they want to hear. You become what they want to love. But deep inside, there's a voice whispering, "If they really knew me, they'd leave." So you hide, and you call it love. But it's not love. It's fear management. It's identity suppression in exchange for temporary warmth. That's not connection. That's emotional camouflage. Because connection isn't built on approval. It's built on courage. The courage to say, "This is who I am," not the highlight reel, not the costume, just me. And when someone stays, not because you impressed them, but because you are honest, that's the beginning of real love. You don't want to love, you want to escape your loneliness. Let's tell the truth. You've been avoiding, you're not searching for a soulmate. You're searching for a distraction from the aching silence in your chest that follows you everywhere. You'll scroll, swipe, text, flirt. Not because you're ready to give someone your heart, but because you don't know how to sit with your own. Loneliness isn't just being alone. It's being unwilling to face yourself when no one's watching. And you've built your entire emotional rhythm around avoiding that confrontation. Every good morning text, every dopamine hit from attention is a numbing agent, not love. You say you want someone to understand you, but do you even understand yourself? You say you're ready for a deep connection, but you can't even endure 10 minutes in a quiet room without grabbing your phone. You confuse company with comfort. You think presence means peace, but unless you make peace with your solitude, you will bring your emptiness into every relationship and expect them to fill it. That's not love. That's emotional dependency dressed up as romance, and people can feel it. That desperate energy that says, "Please fix the loneliness I refuse to face." But no one can fix what you haven't accepted. Love can only grow in the soil of self. Respect, and until you learn to sit in your own silence without needing to be rescued, you won't be ready for someone who sees you because you're still hiding from yourself. You're not heartbroken. You're addicted to the attention they gave you. You think you're grieving them. But be honest, are you really mourning who they were? Or are you mourning the way they made you feel? The constant messages, the attention, the feeling that someone noticed when you entered the room. You weren't in love. You were high. High on being desired, on being someone's favorite notification, on being the center of someone else's world, even if only for a moment. And now that it's gone, it's not just them you miss, it's you, the version of you that felt important in their presence. You say your heart is broken, but maybe your ego is what's bleeding, because you weren't ready to be alone. Again, to face the quiet, to feel invisible, and so you confuse absence with abandonment. You think the silence they left behind is proof you were unworthy, but it's not. It's an invitation to detox, to pull away from the need to be validated by another heartbeat, to sit with the version of yourself that doesn't need to be admired only, understood, because love isn't about feeding your craving for attention, it's about choosing to give without losing yourself. And sometimes, heartbreak is just the withdrawal symptoms from being addicted to someone who made you forget your own name. You say you want love, but you panic when someone tries to love the real you. You've built walls so high, even the light struggles to reach you. You cry at night about being unloved. But when someone steps forward, not for your looks, not for your charm, but for your truth, you flinch. You push them away. You ghost them. You sabotage the softness they offer. Why? Because you're not afraid of being alone. You're afraid of being seen, of being fully known. Flaws, fears, insecurities. You've spent so long curating a version of yourself that's lovable, impressive, untouchable. You've mistaken love for performance. And when someone looks into your soul instead of your resume, you don't feel loved, you feel exposed, so you run. Back to people who only love your mask. Back to relationships where validation is exchanged like currency. Because deep down, you believe this lie. If someone really knew me, they wouldn't stay so. You'll protect yourself from heartbreak by ensuring no one ever touches your heart. But that safety comes with a cost. You remain untouched, unbroken, but also unheld. What if real love is not about impressing someone, but being willing to be unedited and still chosen? Until you stop punishing people for trying to love the real you, you'll remain a prisoner in a cage you built out of performance. And the saddest part, you'll keep calling that prison independence. You don't want love, you want to be worshipped because you don't know how to love yourself. Let's get honest. You don't want love. You want someone to stand in awe of you, to chase you endlessly, to treat you like you're the answer to all their emptiness, because deep down, you've never known what it feels like to be enough for yourself. So you crave exaggerated affection, grand gestures, endless affirmations. You call it romance, but it's just anesthesia. Because when you're finally alone with no one to text you, no one to tell you you're beautiful, the silence screams louder than you can bear. You need to feel desired, not because you're full, but because you're empty. And instead of facing the void inside, you try to drown it in someone else's admiration. But here's the truth no one dares to tell you. Love is not worship. Love is not performance. Love is to hold people standing face to face, not begging each other to fill in their broken places. You keep looking for someone who will make you feel divine because you've forgotten your own humanity. You've confused praise with love. But real love isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, ordinary. It's choosing someone even when there's nothing spectacular about the moment. And until you learn to sit with your uncelebrated self, until you can look in the mirror and not need applause, you'll keep mistaking admiration for connection and wondering why you always feel alone, even when you're not. You confuse being needed with being loved, and it's destroying your relationships. There's a dangerous trap many fall into without realizing, mistaking being needed for being loved. You believe that if someone depends on you, values you, or clings to you, that must mean love. But true love doesn't suffocate. It doesn't hold someone hostage with obligation or guilt. When you confuse neediness for love, you create chains instead of wings. You tether people to you not because they want to stay, but because they feel trapped. You mistake control for connection, fear for affection, and in doing so, you strip away the freedom that love demands. Love is not a contract written in demands, but a dance between two willing souls, choosing each other without chains, without fear, without the desperate need to fill a void that only you can heal. But if your self-worth is tangled in how indispensable you are to others, you will always push love away by gripping it too tightly. And ironically, the more you hold on, the more love slips through your fingers. Because love needs space to breathe, to grow, to be free. And if you can't learn to love yourself freely, you will never know what it means to truly love someone else. Till you stop chasing validation, you'll never find real love, because love starts within. The endless chase for validation is a spiral with no bottom. You run from like to like, from compliment to compliment, thinking this will fill the emptiness inside. But no number of hearts, likes, or praises can heal a soul starving for self-love. You look outside for something that only lives inside. You want love, but you're afraid to love yourself. You fear facing your imperfections, your shadows, your loneliness, so you distract yourself with the illusion of being wanted. But real love is born not from seeking approval, but from accepting your own worth without conditions. It's waking up every day and choosing yourself, even when the world ignores you, even when your flaws are glaring, even when your past mistakes haunt you. Only when you cultivate love within that fierce, unshakable love for who you are, can you stop begging the world to tell you you're enough, because love isn't a gift someone else hands to you. It's a fire you kindle inside your own heart, and until you learn to be your own home, your own sanctuary, you will keep mistaking addiction to validation for love and keep walking in circles, endlessly searching for what's already inside.